Hello and welcome back to Conversations Over Coffee. I'm here with Dr. Simmons. Dr. Simmons, say hello.
Hello.
Going back to the tip, one of your tips was you need to schedule your time off with the same care and intention as what your working days. And I thought that was a fantastic point. You even recommend scheduling your PTO first in some cases. My question is for maybe people who go into this field really focusing on their work, how do you enter that mindset? How do you shift from prioritizing work to prioritizing yourself, your family, your friends? And how does that, in your experience, how does that look?
Well, I will say I didn't do it right away. And this was kind of hard-won knowledge. I finished residency with 2 children. So at the end of a 4-year residency, I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So work was at home and work was at work, right? So it's just a lot of actual tasks that needed to be completed to get things done, and to make sure that these little people were still alive at the end of the day. And I was trying to launch my research career and applying for grants and doing studies. And so it was a very busy time. And I remember sitting at my desk one day on my day off, which is what I call the days when I just went into the office and worked for 6 to 8 hours, which my husband told me is what other people call a work day, right? So, but because I wasn't working a shift, I called it my day off. So I was sitting at my desk on my day off, and I kind of had this feeling of, well, is this it? Like, is this what I worked so long and so hard for? And I thought, gosh, I'm finally not paying someone money to do what I'm doing. I have a little bit of income and I'm going to take a trip. So I scheduled a trip right then to take my then 5-year-old overnight to Chicago, stay in a hotel with her and go to the American Girl doll store and the aquarium and walk on the beach of Lake Michigan. And it was wonderful. So right then I decided, well, this is something that I'm going to do again. And I did a little research into what were the critical sort of times in children's lives. And I came up with 5. At 5, I'm going to take them to Chicago overnight. At 9, we go to Washington, D.C. for 3 nights. And we do the monuments and the restaurants and the museums. And then at 13, I take them wherever they want to go. And at 17, I take them wherever they want to go, but in the world, not just the country. So far I've done 3 Chicago trips, 2 Washington, D.C. trips, a trip to Disney World, a trip to Alaska to hike in Denali, 2 very different children. And right now we're planning our sort of senior trip for our oldest and wherever she wants to go in the world. And having those touchstones has been super important for them, but also for me in having these moments to remember and look forward to.
One last question. So one of the issues with work-life balance, right, for clinicians especially, is that work follows them home, either in the form of actual work, like physical work, or in the sense of a difficult case or patient experience. As an emergency physician, I'm sure you face both of these. How do you keep that harmony in those cases, especially with the latter, where you really don't have a choice in that matter per se?
So I'm going to take this answer in 2 parts, and I'm going to address the physical work first, which usually is charting for clinicians. Sometimes there's other things, reading journals and keeping up to date. For most people, that's fun. I know we're all big nerds, but keeping up with the medical information is pretty fun. The charting is not so much. And so really 2 techniques. One is getting super efficient at work as much as you can to get done before you leave. And then really being thoughtful and having the discussion with your work, with your hospital about what charting you do, whether you can use scribes as a group, and what you can do to really reduce that administrative burden. The emotional part is harder, right? It can be a little sneaky, and sometimes things that you don't think were going to come home with you do. And other times, that something has had an impact on you, but in the moment, you can't really fully process that because you're in the middle of taking care of people. You've got a department full of sick patients. And, maybe you've just had a pediatric death or an unexpected death of a young person or someone who was just in a lot of pain or had been assaulted. And that's had an emotional impact on you, but you just can't take the time, right?
Right.
And what I found, again, hard-won knowledge, is that even if you can successfully partition that response in the moment and for that day, you need to go back and debrief and think through and process that experience. And probably not just inside your own head, right? But either writing it out, talking to someone else about it, a trusted colleague, your spouse, a therapist, whoever that is for you. It can be very helpful because when it stays in our own head without light and air, sometimes it turns a little bit, right? It turns inside to us. It turns more negative than it really has to. If you add light and air, whether that's through writing or through sharing it with someone else, then it can sort of evolve in a healthier way. So things are going to come home with you. We're all human, and we're really good. We're experts, in fact, in partitioning in the moment. That's a skill you need in medicine. That doesn't mean that partitioning doesn't need to then be dismantled and dealt with.
Yeah, that's a great ending to that. I'm sure so many people keep that mindset coming home because you don't want to bring that burden to the home. You want to keep that work life separate, but airing it out, even in my own life, I've seen the benefits of that. So, well, thank you so much. Those are all the questions I have for today, but it's been always great talking to you, and I look forward to hopefully doing this again if we can.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, and happy October.
Thank you.